Ever since I was a child, I've been a jazz and blues enthusiast. And I decided more or less that I would make some records, even if it was only for fun. And after one or two really amateurish tries at it, in 1947, I got together with an old friend, Herb Abramson, and borrowed some money from another friend in Washington, and came to New York, and we started the Atlantic label. We had a pretty good idea as to what we wanted to do. We wanted to record blues music, jazz, and what was later to be called rhythm and blues. We recorded Eddie Safransky and the Downbeat Poll Winners, Boyd Raeburn's big band, Joe Morris and Johnny Griffin. They started us off. Our first big vocal hit was by Styx McGee, great blues singer, and his Drinking Wine Spodioti was a big chart record and our Atlantic's first important hit.
Drinking wine, Spodioti, drinking wine, pop, pop.
Mama, he treats your daughter mean. Tweedly, 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 dee.
Oh, dear Julep was the cause of it all. It shake, round and roll.
We had the great fortune of becoming associated with Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller, who made the now historic Coasters sessions, and who also later on made so many big hits with the Drifters.
Well, we were the first writer-producers, independent writer-producers in the business. And we went to work for Atlantic in 1956. And we were really only interested in writing songs and producing records. And we decided that we wanted to connect with Atlantic in some way because we admired the really high standard of work that was coming out of it.
And people are just too much for me to face.
Don't talk back.
There is a rose in Spanish Harlem.
In '53, I came into Atlantic and started working with Ahmed. I started producing R&B records with Ahmed immediately. He took me into the studio and helped me learn how to record. The artists that we began to work with together were Laverne Baker, the Clovers, Clyde McPhatter and the Drifters, Chuck Willis, Ray Charles, Ivory Joe Hunter, the Diamonds, and many, many others. Ray Charles lives in a wall of sound. He lives in a shell of sound. I mean, and he's just incredible. He's the external ear and the internal ear, and as a result, he does it all. Arranges, sings, produces, and he's still one of the great giants. He's not diminished at all by one fragment, by one hair. He's just as good as he ever was.
See the girl with the red dress on. She can do the birdland all night long. Yeah, yeah. What I say? All right. 'Cause I got a woman now, way on town, good to me. Yes, I have. I got a woman now, way over town, good to me. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Bobby Darin was about to be released from his contract with Atlantic, where he'd been for a few months, when I decided I would like to make one try producing him, and we were lucky enough to come up with the session which gave us.
Splish splash, I was taking a bath, long about a Saturday night. Yeah. Oh, the shark, babe, has such teeth, dear, and it shows them pearly white.
I started to work for Atlantic on the 1st of January of 1955, when Ahmed and Jerry thought that it was time to have a program of LP releases. And I did not just jazz, but everything that was outside really of the R&B and soul music of the day. Plus, of course, a very important jazz program.
The first record I made with the Modern Jazz Quartet was Fontessa in 1955. And it's still in the catalog, and it still gets sales around the world, which shows that when you do something really of lasting value, there's always a new audience for it.
Atlantic Studios. We're in New York.
Bill Buster, Greenberg, Jerry Greenberg. Right? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Joel Dorn. When I was a kid, I was around 13 years old, I heard a record by Ray Charles. It was called Ain't That Love, and it was the first record I ever heard by Ray Charles, but it was the first Atlantic record that I ever heard. And ever since that time, I always wanted to be a producer at Atlantic Records.
My name is Henry Allen. I'm Vice President of Promotions.
You're not getting me in there.
Hi, I'm Noreen Woods, and I work with Ahmet Ertegun and Jerry Wexler. I've been with the company 15 years, and I think it's fantastic, and I love it. And that's it.
I'm Dick Klein, National Pop Promotion Director at Atlantic Records.
Derek and the Dominoes, 25 bullet cash box, and 24 bullet record world.
I sell records, lots of them.
Being a producer is kind of being a middleman between two sets of psychotics.
By 1960, the Atlantic recording roster had changed drastically. And when you have a record company that is growing and appealing to younger, wide-awake, more thinking, more feeling people, all of a sudden you draw more types of unusual talent.
And the rock and roll wave was on the way.
They say our love won't pay the rent. Before it's earned, our money's all been spent.
Groovy on a Sunday afternoon. Good love, now give me that good, good love. Good love, all I need is love. Good love, good loving, baby, good love. Good time, keep me hanging on.
Get up, gotta be done. Don't you know that I'm loving you?
Buffalo Springfield had among its members Neil Young and Steve Stills and Richie Furay. And it probably was one of the 2 or 3 most important American groups of all time.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear.
When Steve Stills and I were talking about putting a new group together after the breakup of Buffalo Springfield, he introduced to me a young man who was to become their manager, the manager, that is, of Crosby, Stills, Nash. His name is David Geffen.
First time I had any dealings with Atlantic Records, I had called up Jerry Wexler to have a meeting to discuss Stephen Stills. And I got to the office and I told him that I wanted a release, whereupon he picked me up and threw me out of the office.
This is the second time we've ever played in front of people, man. We're scared shitless.
Something inside is telling me that I've got your secret.
Are you still listening? Fear is the lock and laughter the key to your heart. Yes, and I love you. I am yours. You are mine. You are what you are. You make it hard, hard, and you make it hard, and you make it hard.
By the time we got to Woodstock, we were half a million strong. And everywhere was a song and a celebration. And I dreamed I saw the bomb at death. riding shotgun in the sky, turning into butterflies above our nation.
I first met Robert Stigwood in London at the time that we took on Polydor as our distributing arm in England.
When I signed the Bee Gees, it didn't take a genius to know that one had an incredible, new, exciting talent. And I came over to the United States to make a record deal for them. And up to that time, I'd never really studied the American market carefully, and I stayed in New York for about a month, meeting the presidents of all the different companies, talking to people who dealt with the various companies, and I made a decision to place the group with Atlantic.
Come to me whenever you're lonely. Come to me if you need a shoulder. Now and then you need someone older. So darling, you run to me.
And Robert and I first heard a great young blues guitar player whose name was Eric Clapton. After that evening, Robert put together a group that was to be known as the Cream, and which became one of the greatest groups in the history of jazz and rock and roll. Jerry Wexler and I were great fans of the Yardbirds, and at a certain point, Jerry was able to get a hold of the manager of Jimmy Page, who was getting together with John Paul Jones, and they changed the name of the group to Led Zeppelin. The rest is history.
I'm gonna give you my love. I'm gonna give you my love. Oh, want a whole lot of love. Want a whole lot of love. Want a whole lot of love. There's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold, and she's buying a stairway to heaven.
I got a phone call one day from London from a friend of our company, and she mentioned a group called King Crimson, out of which emerged Emerson, Lake and Palmer, one of the most dynamic and exciting groups on the rock and roll circuit today.
My face spills so gently into your eyes, disturbing the waters of our lives.
Our next big English success was a great, great group called Yes.
And you and I climb over the sea to the valley. And you and I reach out for reasons to call.
1967 was a very important year for Atlantic. That's the year that Jerry Wexler signed Aretha Franklin.
Aretha has always been a leader from the time she was 15 years old and singing in her father's church.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, think F-C-C-T.
I say with pride that Aretha is not only my daughter, Aretha is just a stone singer. 1, 2, 3.
One more thing I want to say right here. I'm gonna wait till the stars come out. See that twinkle in your eye. I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour. That's when my love begins to shine. You're the only girl I know. Really, I've been sold in the midnight hour. Lord have mercy. All I want you to do, just give it respect when I come home. Hey, girl, hey, respect is what I want. Respect is what I need. Respect is what I want. Respect is what I need.
And don't you worry about a doggone thing at all. Because there's some man somewhere who'll take you, baby, skinny legs and all. Keep on walking, baby.
There's one point I'd like to stress, and that is that ever since I've been with Atlantic, we have never stopped with our jazz policy. She's a fantastic person, a great friend, and it's a privilege to work with someone like Roberta Flack, who is also one of the most intelligent people I've ever worked with.
And the moon and the stars were the gifts you gave to the dark and the endless skies, my love.
A clean-up woman is a woman who gets all the love we girls leave behind. But I look at love as a two-way street. You get the good with the bad, you take the bitter with the sweet. Oh, you're precious, honey. You're so precious, baby. Precious, baby of mine.
All of us, Jerry and Wexler and Nestle and I, have been Stones fans from the beginning, and it was a very, very great thing for us to be able to become associated with them professionally.
I decided to start a record company, and we went back to LA and sat down and tried to figure out a name for it. And then we thought about what would be the perfect name for a record company, and Asylum came up because it's such a crazy business.
Doctor, my eyes, tell me what is wrong, 'cause I'm unwise to leave them open for so long. Do the thing you're meant to, and I know that I was born to rock and roll. I'm gonna rock and roll to satisfy your soul. I'm gonna rock and roll to satisfy your soul. Yes, I am a woman of heart and mind. Time on her hands, no child to raise. Come to me like a little boy, and I give you my scorn and my praise.
Don't forget RSO, the sign of the red cow.
We'll know next week probably on the Bee Gees and the other one. Excellent. Now you get this new mix. If you hear this new mix down there, next week we'll know on Derek. You're fine. The Derek, that ought to be a smasher. I'm telling you, it's a monstrously big record.
I received letter just today from someone close to me, so far away.
The first important comedy artist that we signed was Flip Wilson.
A woman's dress is supposed to show everything but her age. Woo! Don't fight the feeling.
We were rather fortunate to present comedy recordings with George Carlin, who is a protege of Flip Wilson, who is in the same group as Flip, now on the Little David label. And we got the rights, the recording rights for the most popular TV show, All in the Family.
It's 8 o'clock in Los Angeles. It's 9 o'clock in Denver. It's 10 o'clock in Chicago. In Baltimore, it's 6:42.
There it is. We didn't crawl out from under no rocks. We didn't have no tails. And we didn't come from monkeys, you atheistic pinko meathead.
We think that there's no limit to Donny Hathaway's future because of his incredible musicality.
We're all first and foremost record producers and second businessmen. We keep our friendships and our relations with musicians, whether they're with us or not, because naturally, after all, it's not just a question of a contract, but even if somebody records somebody else, he's still your friend, you know?
Spend your love, it's your heart you'll say, but if you can't stop, won't you smile away to an
By the time this film is going to be shown, the record's going to be a hit.
Today, we're penetrating the country field. I'm specializing in that. We've signed up Willie Nelson, who is a very brilliant, sophisticated talent. And one of my current strong projects is Doug Sahm, formerly the Sir Douglas Quintet, who is another musician who I would give the accolade of genius.
Anybody going to Santa Arizona?
There's a hole in Daddy's arm where all the money goes. Jesus Christ died for nothing, I suppose.
We have great hopes for an artist with whom we've been building now for many years. That's Dr. John, otherwise known as Mac Rabenak.
I've been in a right place, but it must have been a wrong time. My head is in a bad place, but I'm having such a good time. I've been running, trying to get hung up in my mind. Just got to give myself a good talking to this time.
Most people follow us. We're not followers. We consider ourselves leaders.
Baby, whenever you call me, I'll be there. Whenever you want me, I'll be there. Whenever you need me, I'll be there. I'll be around. There is peace in the valley of
In late 1972, I had the opportunity of hearing a young lady was making a lot of noise in a little club called the Downstairs at the Upstairs. And I went in one evening and was completely knocked out by Miss Bette Midler.
Ahmet saw me at a club in New York called the Upstairs at the Downstairs. We were working for a hairdresser's convention. There were 350 hairdressers in a room that seated 50 people. And at the end of the show, they all got up on the table and proceeded to do the Lindy. All 350 of them, all together. Ahmet Ertegun happened to walk in at the tail end of the Lindy. He didn't hear a note and signed me immediately.
I shall beat you.
What about your first movie? Anything in the works on that?
I've made a couple of movies, all bombs.
What, your first starring role?
My first starring role, I just had. Cause you got to have friends. Ahmet Ertegun throws a wonderful party.
Dun da da da, dun da da da, dun da. And then you have a little drum break and go into the thing.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, I was rolling home in the driving rain when I saw her from my car. I looked her up and I looked her down. I asked her if she's going far. And she turned around and said to me, just to Washington Square. Will you drive me home, 'cause I'm all alone. I turned you on there. And I said, ooh, I think I'm gonna like it. I said, ooh, I think I'm gonna try it.
I just want everybody to know one thing. I taught Ahmet everything he knows.
Is that too funny?
Adieu, adieu. That's all, mesdames et messieurs.